Over the past few weeks, there have been beginnings of a stir regarding the sequel to the Nintendo Switch. Multiple gaming outlets reported that the console's sequel, simply being called Switch 2 for now, is slated for next year, specifically the second half of 2024. Though at the moment, nothing is set in stone. There's a lot to be excited for when thinking about a Switch 2. Currently, the Switch has sold approximately 130 million units since releasing March 3rd, 2017, solidifying its position as the third highest selling console ever, including handhelds. Above it stands the Nintendo DS at just over 154 million units, and the king of consoles, the PlayStation 2, with over 155 million units sold. Nintendo has a lot to be happy about, as the Switch will continue to sell even after the Switch 2 releases. At its current pace, the Switch may end up selling over 145 million units by the time its run ends. Making a sequel to a success of this size is a monumental task for Nintendo, or any company. From their view, they have limited options. Looking at how many copies of Switch games sold, the next console needs to include Switch features in many ways, and of course backwards compatibility as always. The ability to continue selling many peripherals would also be extremely beneficial to Nintendo. Given this, it's a no-brainer in many ways that the best option is to make a direct sequel console, the Nintendo Switch but better, and that seems to be what Nintendo has decided to do. Looking back at Nintendo's history, we can predict a few things. The first is processing and graphical power. The Switch released about 3.5 years after the PS4 and Xbox One. Graphically, the Switch was far greater than the PS3 and more powerful, but was still weaker than the PS4 and Xbox. Here, the Switch 2 is allegedly coming out 4 years after these current-gen consoles, so it would make sense that the Switch 2 will be more powerful than the PS4 and Xbox One, but not the PS5 and Series X. My guess would be that it would be around the power of a PS4 Pro, but not much more than that. Furthermore, we can also predict price, which has historically been consistent. The Wii released at $250, the Wii U at $300, and the Switch launched with a price of $300 as well. Additionally, the Switch Lite is $200 and the OLED version is $350 as of now. In other words, a Nintendo console is always between $100 to $200 cheaper than the current PlayStation or Xbox. Essentially, all this likely means is that the Switch 2 will be around $300 to $350, which would also be great for Nintendo and consumers. But not all is sunshine and rainbows for Nintendo here. There are risks and problems that need to be solved and avoided. Why? Because of history. Yes, we just looked at history to predict certain things about the upcoming console, but there's another factor of history to consider. It's the fact that history tends to repeat itself. Currently, Nintendo is in almost the exact same situation it was in just over a decade ago. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Nintendo releases a very unique and extremely innovative console. Even more, the first-party lineup is insane, with many of those games utilizing the unique features of the console. After that console is mega successful, Nintendo wants to make a direct sequel to it. Are you starting to see the danger of what's going on here? Let's go more in depth with what I'm trying to say. Let's go back in time.
Too far, too far, too far!
The Wii released on November 19, 2006, and was a huge success, selling over 101 million units over the course of its lifetime. For reference, the Nintendo GameCube released prior to the Wii in 2001 and sold a total of only 21.74 million units, so the huge success of the Wii cannot be understated in this context. Nintendo knew that they had something special and had to capitalize on the Wii's success with their next console, so why not just make a direct sequel to it? It has the Wii name and it's guaranteed to be a success. It is also not the first time they did that. The SNES was pretty much a direct sequel to the NES. The NES played 8-bit games while the SNES played 16-bit games, and every new Xbox and PlayStation systems are simply sequels to their previous consoles. They don't do much new aside from being more powerful machines with a few new features, yet are highly successful. However, the Wii's success can obviously be attributed to the fact that it was not simply a sequel to the GameCube. It was totally different, and quite frankly, the whole system was genius. In this sense, it was not a direct competitor to the Xbox 360 or PS3, it was in a world of its own. If it was instead a GameCube 2, then it would have likely been slaughtered by the competition. Anyway, that's pretty much all you need to know about the Wii, because we should move on to the next console. Nintendo thought up and released the Wii U, although the results were not quite what they expected. Simply put, everything about the Wii U was abysmal. The sales numbers were catastrophically low, selling 13.5 million units in its lifetime, and it remains as Nintendo's worst-selling console. Looking back, many things led to this failure. The separate tablet was useless in many ways and felt cheap, and if you broke it, it was expensive to replace. The console itself was also unimpressive. It released on November 18, 2012, which was a significant problem. Why? Because the next generation of consoles were set to release 1 year later in November of 2013. The Wii U was arguably more powerful than the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, but not by much, and those consoles were already 6 to 7 years old at that point. There were also the games. For first-party Nintendo games, there were essentially none. Well, Mario Kart 8 of course, but really not that much otherwise, at least nothing good. For example, there was no new Zelda game until 2017, which was of course Breath of the Wild, but that also released on the Switch. The Wii U was well done by then. Lastly, but importantly, there was no innovation, at least nothing meaningful or good. The Wii was not a powerful console, but the uniqueness and innovation it brought is what made it successful. The Wii U simply never brought anything of substance with it. And these are only the issues I remember. There are many articles detailing even more issues with that console, including marketing confusion, lack of third-party games and support, the high price point, other bad features, etc., along with what I already mentioned. The Switch, of course, was the opposite. It was innovative, unique, priced well, and had a huge first-party lineup within its first few years, spaced out very well. Mario, Bayonetta, Pokemon, 2 main Zelda games, and a bunch of other first-party games as well. It even has pretty good third-party games and support. This is all great, but what about a Switch 2? The potential problem with Switch 2 is that it will be a Wii U type of console. Let's look at this again now that we've learned about the past. Nintendo has an ungodly successful console that was incredibly innovative. They release unique and awesome first-party games to boost the success. They then want to make a direct sequel. Are you starting to see the potential danger with making Switch 2? Nintendo is at the exact same crossroads and the exact same situation it was in between the Wii and the Wii U. Heck, even look at Zelda. Zelda Skyward Sword came out in 2011, 1 year before the Wii U launched. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out this year, allegedly 1 year before Switch 2. Since a new Zelda just came out, we're already in a situation where the next mainline entry won't be ready until at least 2026 or many years into Switch 2's life. Of course, this is one singular example, but when you listen to this video so far, you can start drawing a lot of parallels. And simply put, the parallels here can't be ignored. If the Switch 2 has nothing that is additionally innovative, has a small amount of first-party titles, and is a console that looks and acts like the original Switch but simply a bit better, it will likely suffer a similar fate as the Wii U. Of course, there could always be additional issues as well. Switch 2 could simply be bad in other aspects, such as having bad battery life, poor build quality, super expensive peripherals, etc. On the other hand, the solution for the Switch 2 is of course simple enough on paper. Price it well, have it be powerful enough for a wide variety of games to be played on it, have large first-party games at launch and after, and be innovative. Aside from innovation, do exactly what you did with Switch in all these aspects. Even the marketing for Switch was crystal clear and effective. Of course, this solution is easier said than done, especially with being innovative, but I am not a worldwide famous multi-billion-dollar gaming company, so I leave that to them. Ultimately, history tends to repeat itself. However, if you're smart, you learn from your mistakes of the past. Nintendo is smart and has made many great decisions over the Switch's life so far. So, do I actually think they'd stumble horribly with the Switch 2? No, but I would have said the same thing before the Wii U. Some things you just can't be sure of. But what you can be sure of is that I'll see all of you in the next video. Thanks everyone for watching.